Welcome to The Wine Talks, the podcast where we discover the stories, people, and passion behind the world of wine. In every episode, we explore personal journeys, memorable wines, and the stories that bring people together. Hosted by Melvin Hardey, pour yourself a glass of wine, sit back, and enjoy The Wine Talks.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to The Wine Talks. Today I have a very special guest for our first English episode, which is Christophe Heynen, Master of Wine. Christophe, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Melvin. Nice being here.
Perfect. And I want to ask you, Christophe, how did you get involved in the world of wine?
I started in the world of wine in 2021. I used to work in the US in a famous restaurant group,
Yeah.
and decided when my wife to come back to Europe. And my initial thought was, well, why not do something around the world of wine? I've been traveling in a lot of countries at that time, tasting a lot of wines from everywhere, but just more as an amateur than really a professional.
Okay.
So I was more in the management of very nice restaurants. And then, I came back, went to a few shows, and thought, I think this is something for me.
Okay.
I like the product, I like the history, I like, how it feels. So that's how I decided to start. This was in 2021.
That's 5 years ago.
21. Oh, 2001. Sorry.
Oh,
21.
okay. 24,
2000, yeah.
25 years ago.
Yeah, 25 years ago. 25
Perfect.
years ago. Yeah.
Glad to have that cleared out. So what was your first experience with wine that you thought like, wow, this is
Okay, so traditionally, I'm originally from Belgium, although I traveled a lot and left Belgium at the age of 11. But when we were kids, my dad is a physician, a doctor,
Mhm.
and he and his brothers and family and friends used to import barrels of Burgundy. So in Belgium, a lot of people and here in the Netherlands too wouldn't necessarily in the 1970s purchase wines bottled.
Mhm.
They purchased a barrel and then they put the wine in bottle themselves, cork it, and it was like sort of a nice party and so on. So I remember as a kid already, my parents, saying, yeah, you can taste a little bit this. Oh, there's a German Spätlese. Taste that. That's really good. So that was my very first experience. And then over the years, I was lucky enough to go to a few nice restaurants. And sometimes my dad, who obviously appreciated wine, took very nice bottles.
Mhm.
And I think what really got me into the wine business, like other people are really hooked by wine, was that he did one time for my birthday purchase a Domaine de la Romanée Conti
No, really.
La Tâche,
Yeah, of course.
from the 70s, and this was like sort of a revelation for me. When I did this, I tasted the wine. I said, "Wow, this is something very
This is
particular."
almost a holy moment.
Yeah. I kept the bottle. I still have it. Yeah,
Can
empty.
imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine. I can
was a
imagine.
long time ago. But then I didn't make anything of it. But I went into the restaurant industry. I'm an alumni of the Lausanne Hotel School, which is a famous
I know.
hospitality
Mhm.
school, and but so always kept sort of a passion for wine. I was president of the wine club in Lausanne, and so on, so on, so on, so on. So that's how it began.
Perfect. So I am really anxious to know. I want to start off by no. Let's start off the conversation with a glass of wine,
Sure,
and we're gonna focus today on the Loire.
sure.
Um, we're gonna taste it and we're gonna see what we think of it. But then I would like to know, how do you perceive and how do you taste a glass of wine? What steps do you go through in your head? Maybe you want to take it away and let us
Oh,
know.
sure. Well, it really depends. If you're in a master of wine surrounding an environment, there is a sort of a way in which you approach wine, which is every master of wine has an individual approach to it. Let's be clear about this. But
Yep.
there is some sort of, schematic where we sort of have the same approach to the analytical side of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, if I taste as with my buyers in my company, then it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we taste different things when we're as a buyer. You're trying to figure out how this will please or not, what the price is, etc. So, and then there is a third time of consumption, which is when you're just drinking for pleasure. And you
course.
start not to think overly about it. But when you're in the process of studying, whether for the WSET diploma or whether for the MW, you almost taste I'd say like somebody who wants to extract as much as possible analytical data of the glass. So you're really focused not necessarily about the pleasure of drinking, but about the analytical aspect. So that's sometimes it's a little bit hard because you're in such a
Analytical point of view.
yeah, that you don't really enjoy the one. You're just thinking, okay, what can this be blind? What's the quality? What's the grape? Where is it from? How is it made? And you're always thinking about these things and trying to pick up evidence from the glass. Yeah, so usually the first thing I look at, obviously, is the color and transparency of the wine.
Yeah.
There's not much you can say about the color or transparency in terms of what grape variety it is. You can know a little bit about what the production method was, yeah, but it doesn't give you, other than that, very much information. Obviously, if the wine is a little bit dull or if it's not perfectly clear, then you know it's not been filtered, or maybe it's had skin contact, or maybe it's re-fermented. Maybe there's some yeasts, which are proteins in the wine, and doesn't really necessarily impact negatively the aromas, but it just gives you information.
Yeah.
And then obviously the important thing is to smell the wine, yeah. And this is really very typical of Chenin. Okay, well, the aromas that you get here are a little bit honey, you get pear, apple, quince, which are quite typical. A little bit of wet wool. This is
little floral.
floral, of course, of course. Listen, you have to know there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of aromas in wine. Okay, so I'd say most people can't be wrong. Whatever you say is not totally wrong. Okay, there can be aromas which come out more than others, and where I can teach you what these aromas are. But if your memory brings you back to a certain type of aroma,
True.
which, by the way, we acquire mostly before our age 5. Yeah, let's be clear about that. So,
Wow.
yeah, it can be taught. It's one of the things that actually is not taught very much. One of the senses that is not taught very much
No.
is taste and smell. Yeah, so we have to acquire the language and say, okay, we do paros. This is like a fruit, a vegetable, flower, etc. Yeah. So, but anyhow,
Was that quite a challenge to develop those kind of new ways to look at smell, at taste,
yes.
aromas?
Well, I have to say I'm lucky enough that from a very young age, my mother is an excellent cook, and we did a lot of our things at home ourselves from
Great.
scratch.
Wow.
And when you're a kid and when you're tasting and sampling a lot of different things, then you pick up some of these aromas, and it's slightly easier for you afterwards to build on it.
Yep.
But that does not mean that you can start at when you're 25, yeah, or whatever. But let's be clear, senses are much more developed as you're young. Yeah, they develop along the way. Then you can train them, like eyesight or like feel and touch, etc. But the older you get, the more you lose these senses. Okay, the more it's complicated. Yeah, so if you're very then it's genetic, obviously. Yeah, usually women have a higher sensitivity on the palate than men do.
Yeah.
Because actually, historically, women would taste food to see if there was poison in
If
food.
there's danger.
Yeah, if there's danger. So this has kept on, but that does not mean, again, that some men cannot taste better than a woman.
No.
It has nothing to do with the number of taste buds which you have. There are people that have 300 taste buds. There are people that have 4,000 taste buds in the mouth. It doesn't matter the number, okay? But nevertheless, it depends also on your physical condition.
Yeah. If you're happy, if you're in love,
Voila.
if the sun shines.
Yeah, everything. If you're feeling anxious, if you're not
It's
feeling,
always a funny thing what happens when people go on a holiday. They are like in love again, and they're sitting in this
Oh,
restaurant.
it's the same it's the same with wine. If you go now to the Loire Valley and taste this wine, you go, oh, this is amazing.
This is the best wine
Yeah,
I've ever tasted in my life. You buy 3 or 4 boxes.
That's it.
You come home.
That's one of the big things that we hear a lot from non-professionals is they go out to France or Germany or whatever, and they come back and they say, I have found the best Riesling from Rheinhessen.
In the world.
This is the best in the world. Yeah. I say, okay, well, does it taste the way you tasted it over there? It never tastes the same, But I say it's the same wine, but your feelings impact the way that you
It's always
feel the wine.
exactly also peer-to-peer pressure. When I
Absolutely.
taste together with my tasting group,
Sure.
and
Seeing the label.
and it's my birthday, they know something's about to happen.
Yeah, sure. So anyhow, obviously aromatics are important.
Yeah.
There are 2 types of white grapes, usually aromatic grapes and non-aromatic grapes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's difficult sometimes when you have a non-aromatic. What is a non-aromatic grape? Well, Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc. Okay, these are non-aromatic grapes. What is an aromatic grape? Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling.
Viognier.
Yeah, Viognier, of course. These are very aromatic grapes. Yeah? So it's not easy for the winemaker who produces a non-aromatic wine to make an aromatic wine. Yeah, sometimes they need to use barrels. They need to use different types of fermentation methods to bring out the aroma. So that gives us some information. But here, this is very typical Chenin.
Yeah.
It's quite an open nose of Chenin, so it's quite generous. There are some slight tropical notes, which would lead me to believe this is from a very warm vintage. It's not overt like it would be a New World Chenin. So this would not be a Chenin from South Africa,
Mhm.
yeah, which would be different in profile. This is very typical European, very typical Loire Valley wine.
Classic.
So then we'll drink it. By the way, the first glass that you put in your mouth,
Mhm.
there's something called acclimatation, which is like when you jump in a cold pool. The first time you jump in the pool, you're very, very cold. The second time you jump in, your body gets used to it, okay? Wine has a very low pH and high acidity, okay? This would be 3.1 or something like that in terms of pH. And so your palate needs to get acclimated to the acidity level. So when you're in a blind tasting, when you're at home, when you're tasting something, the first glass you put in your mouth will always feel more acidic than it really is. That's why some people always say, ooh, the second bottle, that was much better than the first one. Yeah, it's just because their palate got used to the acidity level and the pH, which was, yeah. So Chenin has a quite high acidity and linear wine, which is exactly what happens here. So it's a very linear and a very, very nice and crisp, very, very good example of a Chenin. Obviously from a warmer vintage, this is 2022.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very typical type of winemaking. So no new oak on this. Okay, this would be neutral fermentation vessels. Ideal to be already drank now and over the next 5 to 7 years. The acidity level is quite present, still quite present, so it can still improve a little bit over the next 1 or 2 years. But it's a good example of we could give this to any students in the diploma or MW blind and say, where is this from? This would be a good example. Yeah.
It's a typical Loire wine from the Chenin
Yeah.
Blanc grape. If you would have a bottle like this at home, and if you would start cooking, what would you do?
Okay, so cooking is a difficult thing. The pairing palette to the wine is not something that can be taken lightly. There are a lot of elements. There are a few books that are very interesting to this and that sort of cut in a little bit into the cliches that a lot of people think, and then sometimes people repeat without any scientific background. So there's some scientific background. I think the main elements in food that impact the perception in wine is salt. That's one of the very important ones.
Mhm.
Acidity. So if you have lemon juice or verjus or something like that to slightly modify the acidity level of the dish, that's very important. the texture. Okay, the texture. Why? If I'll make a comparison, if you are eating a sea scallop carpaccio raw with a little bit of olive oil, and you place next to it a steak that you need to have chew for a long time. Okay, the first dish you're gonna get a few seconds on your taste buds. The second dish, yeah, the beef, you're gonna have a long time on your taste buds. So when you have something very light and only a few seconds on your taste buds, you probably want to have a wine that is relatively light.
Yeah.
Okay. When you have something where you chew, that is more that requires more time on your palate, then you want to have something probably a little bit heavier and richer. Okay, so that's that. And then there is the spice element that comes into play on top of that. But I would suggest anybody who tries to do pairing to always have the bottle open before you start cooking.
Because then you
A little
yeah.
bit, but then you can adjust a little bit with salt and lemon juice, not making the dish lemony, but just the acidity level, or verjus is also something that can be used. And that brings out certain elements in the wine which are quite interesting. But basically, you can have any wine with any food. Okay, you can even have red wine with oysters. It's not a problem. Yeah. So my philosophy is taste the wine first and then try to adapt it. If you like the wine, that's already a good good.
I think this is a really good tip for the people at home to start not only pepper and salt, but also lemons. I
Yeah.
think it's a really good one. For the people at home, when you go to thewinetalks.com, you can order the 3 wines which we are tasting today, so you can taste together with us. I think this is a beautiful example of a Loire.
Yeah. Perfect.
So thank you very much for this one.
Your wine deserves the right temperature. Find your perfect wine cooler at mijnwijnkoelkast.nl.
Christophe, I would like very much to know more about your MW journey, actually,
Journey. Yes.
because it is not easy to attain, and that is lightly said. How did you experience your MW?
It was actually it was an experience, a very deep experience, and it taught me more about myself in the end than about anything else. It's a very personal journey.
Mhm.
It's extremely complicated. It's like
For the people who do not know, can you talk us a little bit through
Sure.
how does this look? Because before you enter, you already need some certain skill level,
Yes.
at least diploma course, or at least
Yes, you have to have usually a university level degree in science or something that deals with wine, or you can have the diploma that would be suggested, not necessarily an obligation, but it would be a recommendation, a high recommendation. And then there's a little entry exam into the institute, and then you need to have a recommendation letter from an existing MW who knows you, because you need to be someone who in the business is credible. Yeah. And of course, you need to be full-time employed in the wine industry.
Mhm.
You need to have probably at least 6 to 8 years experience in the business before you do this exam. Once you pass this exam, you are admitted into the program. Sorry, you want
But
to
you call it a little exam. But how does this little
Well,
exam looks like?
the first exam is usually simply a blind tasting exam and some theory questions, but
Okay.
this is just to enter the program. There are usually about 200 students that can get in. Yeah, that's the maximum. And then the first year you go to a seminar, and you participate in several course days where the institute teaches you what the Master of Wine exams are about. And the final exams are in 3 parts. So the first part is 3 distinct 12 blind wine papers.
So 36.
36 wines.
Different
So
wines.
2 hours and 15 minutes per 12 wines.
That is.
Yeah, 11 minutes per wine. Yeah.
It's really short.
Yes, that's very short. So it's 12 white, 12 red, and then a mixed bag of fortified sweet white, red, natural, whatever. And the questions are more geared towards the origin, the grape, the quality, the commercial potential, the aging potential, the winemaking. Okay, those are most of the questions. So it's not like a sommelier approach or a sommelier exam where you would be asked to say who the producer is, etc. That's not necessarily appreciated in the MW. What is really appreciated is the analytical skills.
It's more the analytical side of the.
Yeah. So the exam is about 25 pages for the 12 wines with these questions. Usually there are a few clues in the question where they say, oh, the first 3 wines are made from the same single grape varietal. So the first 3 wines, they all have the same varietal, and it's just a single one. So it's not a blend of 2. Okay. So that's one part of the exams, and the second part of the exam is what we call the theory. That's 5 exams. The first one is about everything that has to do with viticulture.
Yeah.
The second is winemaking.
Mm-hmm.
The third is quality control and assessment. The fourth is business of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And the fifth exam is contemporary questions where they would sort of ask you, are natural wines better for your health than conventional wines? And then you need to take a stance to explain.
Okay, but that is a little bit suggestive.
Yes, it's not easy to answer that because you have to take a lot of examples. The difficulty with the theory, those 5 theory exams, so for those 5 theory exams, you have 3 questions, 3 hours. Okay, so that's 1 hour per question.
And you answer them in essay?
You answer them in essay, and the difficult part is not the theoretical element that you need to bring in these essays, but it's the practical. You need to bring at least 4 to 6 examples of what you're talking about. These examples cannot be from wineries from the same region, from the same country, from the same level. So once you need to speak about the cooperative, then you can speak about a very high-end producer. From the same type of wine, once you need to talk about champagne, that's the other time you need
Like
to
a
go.
research paper.
Yeah, well, in 1 hour, you have to show that you know how a Sauvignon Blanc is fermented, at what temperatures they are fermented at, and why the result that is uh, being obtained in New Zealand in Marlborough is different than the one in the Loire, is different than the one in the Steiermark in Austria. And you have to give examples, or you have to say this producer in the Steiermark, he makes his wine this and this and this way. He makes his Sauvignon Blanc this and this way, and this results in that. However, on the other side, his colleague in Marlborough produces that at a different temperature, and so on. And
Wow.
so that's quite difficult. And then if you pass all those, there's a last part for the MW, which is a research paper,
Mm-hmm.
where you have to bring it's a 100-page research paper where you have to bring something to the global community of wine. So you have to research something that is interesting for the global community of wine. Okay. So once you get in the program, the first year is about studying how to pass these exams. There is no syllabus, so there's not one book. There's not the INW will not give you and say like in the diploma or at university, please study this 300 paper book or whatever. It's about everything.
That's insane.
Yeah, so
That's insane.
yeah, that's insane. It can be it's daunting because every time you move ahead, it's like looking at the Everest and saying, oh, I got here. Oh, I'm only at 1,000 meters. I still have 7,000 to go. That's very daunting to do that. At the end of the first year, you do a mini exam. Okay, a very small one. And in that one, the institute looks at if you understand the system of how to answer and if your knowledge is already quite good enough. If it's not, you are taken out of the program.
Really?
Yeah, so that's 55%.
Wow.
Yeah, and then 45% can remain in the program, and that
So they do quality control during The course.
Yes, the first year. And then if you pass that first year mini exam, that means that you're officially allowed to take the exams. So those 3 practical and those 5 theory the year afterwards.
Wow.
Okay. So there's about 14% of the people that pass the theory part, and there's about 6 to 8 that pass the practical part, which is much harder. So that's why that in the end you have around 6 to 8 people who pass. So if you go from 200, you have 45% who pass. That's 90.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if you take 6 or 8% of that, that's 4 to 8 people. So this year there was 5. Yeah, 1 European and then 4 from other countries. So it's very daunting. I think one of the challenges is not only the amount of things that you need to study, but it's also that you are using your left and right brain. So when you taste, yeah, you are using your senses, you are using your memory. It's not the same thing as when you study something theoretical from a book. Yeah, so it's very hard on your physical ability. Yeah. So you need to be in top shape physically and certainly psychologically because the pressure is immense.
I can imagine. So that's why you say it's it's not only a personal journey. It's like it's a looking in the mirror. You are.
I took a personal coach who is specialized in training top class, world class tennis players.
Wow.
And of course also a physical coach because the 3 practicals or the 3 tastings and the 5 theory exams, they take place at the same time. So in the morning you have the tasting exams, and in the afternoon you have the written exams, the theory exams. I can tell you that the first day when I passed the exams, I came back to my hotel, and this is an exam that can be done in London, Sydney, or San Francisco. I did it in London, obviously, it's closer. But you can choose wherever you want. It's the same exam everywhere, the same wines, everything. I came back to my hotel at 7 and I fell asleep immediately because it's so draining. Yeah, it's very, very draining. So you need to be really in top shape to be able to do that. So it's, as I said, it taught me a lot about myself.
And it's and you only still have 24 hours in a day. So I mean, it's
Yes, with the children being married and having your own businesses, I had sort of I imposed sort of a military schedule on myself.
regime too.
So yeah, 4:45 every morning, wake up, study for 2 hours, including tasting at 4:45 a.m. And then afterwards, wake up the kids, bring them to school, do my working day, and then in the evening, just read, not study, because I would be basically brain dead after a whole day of business. And then possibly when you go running, having a podcast like yours and learning something.
Picking up some new things.
Yeah, picking up some new things, listening to people everywhere, trying to pick up examples everywhere. Traveling, every time you travel, go and see a specialist in viticulture, go and see a specialist in winemaking, and discuss very technical things with them. So you have to be very, very intellectually curious to do this.
The thing is, without a syllabus or without
Yes.
specific books, it's like going into a rabbit hole, and you don't know if you're in the correct rabbit hole. For example, you can go full into Riesling, for example,
Yeah.
but then Riesling is only one grape, and there are
Oh yeah.
more than 1,000.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah. It's quite difficult, and obviously everybody comes with their strengths and weaknesses. Okay. You have some winemakers in the who come, obviously a number of winemakers that do this program. And if they're actually asked about something very technical in the winemaking, usually they can answer pretty well. Yeah.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
Only if they don't know what happens in other regions is this complicated for them, because sometimes winemakers from certain regions, they have a certain way of looking at things,
Ton of fish.
and they have not seen what the other guy does in South America or in Oregon or whatever, and so this can be a little bit complicated for them. to answer a question like that because they're so stuck in there. But they have obviously a big advantage. I had to study a lot on viticulture and winemaking. So I did a lot of viticulture and winemaking courses on top myself. I did 2 harvests, not the harvest, but two times the winemaking. I did winemaking in the cooperatives in Spain. I did winemaking in Italy, in Piemonte. So
It is quite literally a journey.
it's a huge journey. It's a huge journey.
We have a second wine in our
Yeah,
glass,
yeah.
another white,
Yeah.
from the same area.
Yes,
This
please.
is not an exam, so you know which grape, you know what it is.
Yeah.
One of the first things I learned was that Puy Fumé
Yeah.
and Puy Fusé are
Yes.
two different regions,
Yes.
two different grapes.
Yes.
So
Puy Fusé is obviously Chardonnay from the south of Burgundy, and Puy Fumé is always Sauvignon Blanc.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it, and that's what we have in our glass. So can you give us a quick?
Sure. Well, Puy Fumé, you have to know that the area of Puy Fumé has increased a lot over the years, and in a lot of the regions borders Sancerre.
It's close to Sancerre, right?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
very difficult sometimes to tell the difference between the Sancerre and Puy Fumé. Although Puy Fumé is a small appellation, the wines are always a little bit more expensive. Okay, so that's one of the first elements that you need to know. So Sancerre is slightly more pungy probably, and Puy Fumé are a little bit more restrained, vertical. So Sauvignon Blanc is one of those grapes that is actually quite aromatic. Here, this is a quite ripe Sauvignon Blanc. So you don't get the Marlborough, New Zealand type white asparagus kiwi
Really pungent.
pungent. You don't really get it here. A lot of floral white fruit, stone fruit.
Yeah.
So you get what is interesting with Sauvignon Blanc is you get this juicy crunchiness. So it makes your saliva come, which is different, very different acidity from the Chenin.
Yep.
This is usually why you have Puy as a, let's say, aperitif wine or wine that you drink with
Mid-course maybe.
yeah, fish, crustaceans, oysters, because it's got that linear aspect, very vertical. Here it's quite powerful, but I think it's a really well made. Again, a nice example. Quite crisp, crunchy. You get this crunchy feeling of white fruits, a little bit of citrus. Yeah, you get some citrus aromas. It holds relatively well in the palate. There's no oak on this, so all neutral.
I
So
really enjoy this nose. I always enjoy these full wines who are really out there. You know, there's
Sauvignon Blanc is a very, very popular grape, and it's been used all over the world, and it's made the success of a certain number of countries. As you know, New Zealand
I
is
think,
the first of them.
well, I think this is a really gastronomical wine. Sometimes they are really easy going. I would not say this is an
No.
easy going wine. I
No.
would say this is a serious wine.
Yeah.
Which could be paired with a beautiful dish. And
Yes, the mid palate texture, which we all often refer to, the mid palate texture is quite intense. So you get some weight,
Yeah.
and you get some roundness, and it remains quite a long time on the palate,
Exactly.
which means that the grapes were quite concentrated.
Yeah.
So that quality level is very high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why usually you wouldn't necessarily, this specific example, you wouldn't take it as an aperitif. You could, but it would be more paired with a dish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you have one of flatfish, a bridle or something, in a nice light cream sauce, that would be great.
Or sometimes you have like this fish with a little crunchy something on top. I think it would really match well with this wine. So I hope you people at home who are tasting with us also enjoy this beautiful example of this area. So Christophe, thank you so much for the insights
Congrats on the wine.
of this wine.
Yeah.
Okay, Christophe, we have our next wine in the glass. A red wine from the Loire, and of course Cabernet Franc. So let's see.
Yeah, Bourgogne is a very interesting appellation because I think the wines are very fruit forward. They're easy to understand. They're approachable, and obviously Cabernet Franc, with the climate change over the last years, Cabernet Franc was in the Loire used to be a grape that not always got the necessary ripeness and needed a lot of time to open up. It needed barrels. It needed to be rounded, etc. And you need to wait 5 to 7 years for the wine to be ready. But now with the climate change, we have a real improvement in Cabernet Franc and especially from this appellation where in price is really interesting.
So sunlight and UV does good things for the grape and for the ripeness.
Yes, at this latitude, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we have a typical Cabernet Franc nose here. We have a lot of black fruits, quite packed, intense. Yeah, a little bit of roasted pepper.
Cabernet Franc sometimes has this methoxypyrazines,
Yes,
the bell pepper, the green bell pepper.
yes,
Do you-
that's usually due exactly to what I was saying, to the unripeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has obviously these methoxypyrazines in quite a big number, and that's why winemakers used barrels and certain fermentation methods
Soft it out.
to round them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here with the more modern styles, they're actually getting more sunlight into the wines. They're having a little bit more concentration in the grapes, and obviously more phenolic ripeness. More phenolic ripeness means less of these aromas. They're still there because they're part of the genetic of these types of grapes, and very very interesting. Very again a very distinctive Cabernet Franc nose, very Bourgogne like. Yeah, grape wine, a lot of texture. I think the tannins are well rounded off. Tannins are quite generous when you have Cabernet Franc. They're always a little bit edgy, okay? But here you can feel that it's backed by a lot of fruit. There's juiciness, okay? So that's why I was saying Bourgogne is an interesting appellation. This is a great wine, yeah.
For me, these kind of wines always ask for a companion. They want this. You just spoke about this juicy steak.
Yeah.
And I kind of
Totally. I think that
looking for that.
yes, I think definitely you need some meat with this. Okay, that would be a great idea. Meat has proteins. The proteins, they come and they go on the surface of your taste buds. Okay, and taste buds are like little holes like this, and so when you have grease or proteins or meat, they come and cover and they go into these taste buds and they cover them. So your perception of tannins,
Goes down.
which are drying your palate, goes down. So that's why sometimes people say red wine, red meat. Okay. It's more about the protein in the meat that actually diminishes the feeling of tannins, which can be for regulated consumers something a little bit difficult. Yeah. That's why also it's one of the main challenges, by the way, these days of producing non-alcoholic wine or de-alcoholized wine,
Yeah.
especially red ones, because the balance between the acidity, the alcohol, and the tannins does not exist anymore.
Lost is not there. Yeah.
So we can do pretty good right now, technically, and we are advancing a lot in the de-alcoholization methods, but we can do pretty well for white and rosé, but we're not quite at it for red wines because of this balance that is required between the ethanol, the tannins, and the acidity, which you don't get afterwards in the alcohol as well.
imagine.
So it will take another few years. We're not at the level of beer yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So, Christophe, I have maybe one final question.
Yeah.
Because we spoke a lot about the complexity of wines. I call myself that I am talk about methoxypyrazines, which is not always really easy when you're just starting in the world of wine. So for the people who are just starting in the world of wine, they think wine is interesting, or they hope wine is interesting, but they want to keep it simple. Where should they start, and how should they start exploring the world of wine?
Sure.
I have some giveaways.
Yeah, of course. I think wine is a very interesting product because it brings together a lot of elements. It brings something from the earth, from nature, from production. It brings something about history. Yeah, where it was from, where it was made, how it was made, etc. It's about commerce. It's about a lot of things. Yeah. So you can find in wine a lot of different elements to pick on. Yeah. So to start with, I would say definitely, well, first of all, listen to podcasts like this one. That's obviously one of the main giveaways. You have to listen to podcasts. I think they're very interesting. Listening to winemakers going out into the vineyards. Now you have vineyards in the Netherlands. There are vineyards in Germany, Belgium, not very far. I think it's interesting to make some visits, go and see for yourselves what is happening there, how wine is made, and then read about wine. I think that's and yeah, first and foremost, drink wine. There are some official, obviously, institutes that give lessons. I think one of the major ones is the WCT, as you would know. I think for people who are a little bit more inclined to go to something more academic and to understand, I think WCT is a really nice way to go forward. It teaches you the basic things in one, and then you can grow if you're
There's a few
interested.
steps you can take. You can start with 1 and you can go, if you
Yes.
like it, you can go to 2. And if you like it more, you can even go to 3.
Yes, there are 4 levels in
And
there.
if you're crazy, you go even to 4. No,
Yes.
or even more. No,
Yeah, there are 4 levels, and
if you
in
go
that
into the rabbit hole, then
yeah, well, the thing about wine is sometimes when you get sort of the hook of it, and when you start studying, you always want to understand more.
Of course.
Yeah. But I think one of the major examples is this must remain a pleasure drink.
Of course.
Okay. And this is a cultural drink, so it's not a recipe. Okay, this is not beer. This is not some tea that we can make a recipe of. The grapes, they change every year. Yeah, because of the climate, because of what happened, because of the age of the vines, etc. So we can't use the same recipe over and over and over again. It's always something new. So that's quite exciting. The wine which we're having today, maybe in the next vintage is going to be slightly different based on the decisions that the winemaker is doing, based on whatever is happening in the vineyard.
So even when you keep this bottle for a few years, I think
Yes.
next year or in 2 years, this bottle is going to be different.
Yes, and this is by the way, this is a wine which I'm sure will age very well over the next 5 to 7 years. And it's already drinking well, really right now. But I think over the next 2-3 years will be perfect, no doubt. So be curious, like in life. If you're curious about things, don't be afraid. You may be impressed by some people who have a lot of knowledge. Listen, even us as MWs around the world, where we're considered sort of the pinnacle of knowledge, we learn things every day. So I said to a lot of journalists when they interviewed me after the MW, they said, "Oh, now you know most things more than other people." I said, "Well, actually, my learning career is just about to begin."
Now you got your driver's license.
Right, because you here I'm listening, I'm tasting, I'm open, I'm listening. Okay, so
Wonderful.
Be open to stuff and enjoy this wonderful product.
I think that's a beautiful one. Be open and discover. I had a wonderful time. Christophe, thank you so much.
Thank you
for
very
our
much.
first English The Wine Talks. I want to thank you very much. I brought something for you to take away, to think about this moment. Of course, the Wine Talks box,
Thank you.
which is especially for our guests. And this one also has something inside.
Okay.
This is a beautiful, not a Loire, it is a Bordeaux. It is from our sponsor of the day, Grapes and Barrels. So this is a beautiful Cru Bourgeois.
Thank you very much.
I hope you will enjoy it as much as I did. Christophe, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you, Melvin.
And
Thank you very much.
until we meet again in the world of wine.
Yes, with pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, guys, before we really end, I forgot to give you a little special gift from a close friend of mine. He is the world's self-declared philosopher, where wine meets philosophy.
Nice.
So I would like to hand you 2 copies
Thank
of
you very much.
the philosophy. And
Yes, I've heard about it. Of
Really?
course, yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So
Thank you very much.
please, I hope you enjoy reading it. So
Yeah, thank you very much for this. Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you for watching and listening to The Wine Talks. Please follow, like, and subscribe to our channels. Share this channel to help us share our love for wine with the world. Would you like to contribute to the Wine Talks? Contact us. The Wine Talks was brought to you by Branding for Wine. Elevate your wine brand. Grapes and Barrels. All wines in this episode, including the wine gift, are brought to you by Grapes and Barrels. Your wine deserves the right temperature. Find your perfect wine cooler at mijnwijnkoelkast.nl. Wijnglas Specialist. Find the perfect wine glass at Wijnglas Specialist. Wijnglas.com. The Iberian. From Spain's finest producers to your table. Podcaroe. Podcast volledig ontzorgd. Jij gaat zitten, wij regelen de rest.